Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World Coronavirus Virtual Conference. Our next guest is amazing person. His name is Stephen Gundry. He's a heart surgeon, researcher, four-time New York Times bestseller, and to my surprise, he is an amazing content creator. We're gonna link down below his YouTube channel, which is amazing. Everybody have to check it out. And welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. So let's start with our actual premise and why we have all gathered here is that you are going to give us a certain topic. But before jumping to the topic, I just wanted to know how your day have changed, how your schedule changed because of that. Is there any difference between before coronavirus and after?
Well, believe it or not, I continue to see patients in my two offices every day from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. And believe it or not, I see patients on Saturdays and Sundays as well.
Wow.
We've taken the premise that if we can teach our patients proper taking care of their gut microbiome through eating habits, that their gut microbiome will help them defend against anything, including the coronavirus that gets thrown at them. And I think my contribution perhaps to all this is going a little bit deeper in why I feel that way and the research that I and others have done on this subject.
Excellent, sir. So without further ado, then let's jump to your topic. So we would like to cover immune health. What food boosts your immune system? I think this is really good. I think it's something that hasn't been widely spoken. Yeah, we're talking about the like sanitizing. We're talking about self-distancing. Definitely, those things are very important. But I think there is an old proverb which says, "You are what you eat." And basically, whatever before we have an actual vaccine, the best cure is our own immune system, isn't it?
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, we do not have a vaccine, and presently we may have some promising antiviral treatments that are being touted, but as yet, none of that has been collaborated with a clinical study. So, you know, really our best defense is a good offense. And our offense has actually been well known. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, 2,500 years ago said all disease begins in the gut. And he didn't know about the human microbiome. He didn't know any of this. But he intrinsically knew that what was happening in the gut would determine our fate. And over the last 20 years, working in nutrition, I'm quite a world famous heart surgeon that over 20 years ago, I saw a person reverse inoperable coronary artery disease with food.
Wow.
And it actually, blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this was possible. And so I've spent over 20 years now researching the impact of food and diet on reversing diseases such as coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. And I've come to the conclusion that Hippocrates was absolutely right. And that not only does all disease begin in the gut, but all disease can be reversed in the gut. Now, what does that have to do with coronavirus? It's very obvious that wherever you look on the news, people with pre-existing conditions are much more susceptible to being affected severely by this virus. Now, pre-existing conditions like high blood pressure, like diabetes, like heart disease, like lung disease, like autoimmune disease. About 70% of my practice now is autoimmune disease reversal. And I can assure you, and I've published, that autoimmune disease is from the gut. And so what is interesting, particularly in the United States in the last few days, is that a disproportionate number of black and brown people are dying from the coronavirus. And everybody is, up in arms that, our blacks and browns in the United States are disadvantaged. But the point of all that is the blacks and browns, and I treat care of a large number of Hispanics and black patients, they have a over proportion of diabetes, high blood pressure, coronary artery disease. So what I and others now feel is that these pre-existing conditions are actually telling us that the immune system is impaired because of what's called a leaky gut. Now, if you had asked me 15 years ago about leaky gut, I would have tossed you out as some sort of quack, and that's just fanciful thinking.
Yes.
But thanks to researchers like Dr. Fasano at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland, we now know that leaky gut not only is real, but I and others have shown that if you have a disease, then you have leaky gut. And why is that important? So about 60 to 70% of all of our immune cells, all of our white blood cells, line the lining of our gut. And our gut, simplistically, is the same surface area as a tennis court inside of us.
Yes.
And that's pretty mind-boggling when we look down and we don't
small,
see
yeah.
small. But in fact, the surface area is huge. And that surface area is actually only one cell thick. And so that's where mischief can come across. And our immune system is actually huddled right next to the wall of our gut. And what we've learned is that the bacteria in our gut actually teach our immune system whether or not things are going great down in the engine room, that we've got lots of different bacteria to guard us against viruses and other things that we swallow, or whether we've got a bunch of bacteria that we call gang members that are just, shooting things. And that determines whether or not our immune system, number one, is robust, but more importantly, whether our immune system is distracted in defending against things coming through the wall of our gut. Now, we talk about this as a war with the coronavirus, and in fact, it is. And if we use a military analogy, one of the stupidest things that you can do in a war is to fight a two-front war. Very few countries have ever successfully fought a two-front war.
Yeah.
Just example, in World War II, Germany attempted a two-front war against the West and against Russia.
Yeah.
We know how that worked out. So if there is a war going down inside of our gut, our immune system is distracted and it's all down in our gut, so that if the coronavirus, which is a cousin of the common cold, gets into our mouth and nose, we don't have the normal components of our immune system up in our mouth and nose and even in our lung because they're distracted. And so I and others think that the reason pre-existing conditions potentiate bad outcomes with the coronavirus is not the pre-existing condition. Hypertension doesn't make you, more susceptible to this.
Yes.
It's a marker that your gut is leaky and that your immune system is impaired because of that, because it's distracted. So and one of the things we're seeing in the United States, which is different than certain other countries, is our young people seem to be more susceptible to this virus than what should happen. And quite frankly, our young people have incredibly poor eating habits. Up to 80% of our young are now obese or overweight, and most of these people have pre-diabetes. And that's actually what, I've spent my career in reversing this in a large population of young people. So the point of all this is, long-winded point, is these pre-existing conditions say that if you don't put attention where attention should be put, and that is the foods you eat, which can absolutely reverse leaky gut in a very short period of time, then yes, we should protect ourselves. We should wash our hands. We should use sanitizers. We should wear a mask out in public. We should socially isolate. But if you're going to be exposed to this, you want to have a ready defense against these viruses. And if you have that defense, one of the things we know is that our microbiome will defend us to the death against bacteria, against viruses, because as strange as it may seem, we are the home for our microbiome. And quite frankly, the last thing our microbiome wants is an invader in their home. And so we're actually beautifully designed, if we do everything right, to resist diseases. And that's the message.
Excellent. So it was a really kind of long message, and it was, I think, very important message. And I want just people to understand, and in condensation point is that, yes, we know that coronavirus has 2% or like 2-3%, depends the mortality rate, but mortality rate increasingly soars if you have preconditions. And in different age groups, mortality rate is very high. And what you're ultimately saying is that if we have those preconditions because of our eating habit was not right, definitely we have a less defense because of our leaky gut, because our immune system is weakened because of our eating habits. So ultimately, this is the point where you should eat right. And this is a very important message. And sir, what should we eat? Let's get to the point.
So let's get to the point. First of all, the last things that we want to eat are foods that either contain sugar or turn to sugar. Two reasons. Number one, very famous Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Linus Pauling, winner of 2 Nobel Prizes, in the 1950s and 1960s actually showed that vitamin C is one of the most potent antiviral compounds there is. Not because vitamin C per se attacks viruses, but interestingly enough, our white blood cells, our immune fighters, actually concentrate vitamin C 50-fold in white blood cells over what's circulating in plasma. And they use that vitamin C as literally a toxin against engulfed bacteria or viruses. Now, here's what's exciting about this, and this is what made him the vitamin C doctor. Vitamin C is made from glucose, from sugar. In fact, it's an incredibly similar molecule. And sugar can be moved into white blood cells easily, just like vitamin C. But glucose moves into white blood cells easier than vitamin C, and so it competes with vitamin C in building up vitamin C in the white blood cells to a high enough concentration. So what he showed was, if you have more glucose, sugar circulating, then your white blood cells will not have the killing power that they need. And there's a lot of myths on the internet that says, well, sugar feeds viruses. No, it doesn't. There's a lot of myths that say, no, there's no proof that sugar impairs your immune system. In fact, the proof was done by 2 Nobel Prize laureate, Linus Pauling, that the reason sugar is so bad is it competes with vitamin C for buildup in white blood cells. Now, the other exciting thing is that vitamin C is incredibly effective IV against viruses. And there are studies out of China showing that continuous or bolus IV vitamin C is dramatically effective against this virus. I've used IV vitamin C during the last influenza epidemic, the H1N1 flu, used it in the ICU to reverse people who were unable to be ventilated on maximum support, and personally have a 25-year-old who now recovered and has her own children who was literally dead, and IV vitamin C did it. So we can't swallow enough vitamin C to get our vitamin C levels high enough, because vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin and we pee it off very rapidly.
Yeah.
But we can reduce the amount of sugar-containing foods. And one of the things that I see that's so sad, at least in the United States, is our grocery stores are empty of breads, of pastas, of tomato sauces, of orange juice, of milk, of crackers, of bagels, and cookies.
Which contain a lot of sugar.
Which contain a lot of sugar. And people don't realize one slice of bread has more sugar than 4 teaspoons of straight sugar. A half a cup of orange juice has 5 teaspoons of sugar. And so these are the foods that we should not be eating. That's number one. Number two, sugar, or foods that turn into sugar, actually enhance the growth of these gang members, these bad bacteria.
Yes.
And they do nothing to feed the good guys that actually prop up our immune system. Now, what feeds them? Quite frankly, what are called resistant starches. So lots of leafy greens, the cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli and cauliflower, or Brussels sprouts, or bok choy. These actually contain compounds that actually tell our immune system that relax, go do other things. We've got things handled down here in the gut. So, for instance, a long history, particularly in Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, of eating the cabbage family, cruciferous vegetables. It's a great idea. The more cabbages we eat right now, the better. Tubers like turnips, parsnips, sweet potatoes are full of the starches that good bacteria need. Lastly, mushrooms. I can't say strong enough that mushrooms have incredible immune boosting properties. And there are multiple compounds in mushrooms that do this. They're primarily the beta-glucans, and there's not going to be a test, but the beta-glucans in mushrooms are much different than the beta-glucans in oatmeal, in oats. Mm-hmm. And so you're far better off eating mushrooms than you are.
We're talking about any mushrooms and different kind of cabbage, isn't it?
Yeah, any mushroom, any different kind of cabbage. And the great thing is, in almost every grocery store, those are still on the shelves because everybody's buying the junk.
That is said, sir. What about the source of the vitamin C? Yeah, we understand that the starchy, it says, relax, guys, it's under control, and we're reducing the sugar. We should reduce the sugar because more sugar we take, less space there is for vitamin C, which is ultimately is a bullet, silver bullet against viruses, bacteria of any kind, right? So we're lowering the sugar, excellent. So we're emptying more space for vitamin C, and we're digesting cabbage, mushroom, and greens that helps the so-called gang members to say, relax, it's under control. And The silver bullet, sir, where we consume and how we digest the vitamin C. What is the source of the vitamin C in that essence?
So the good news is any vitamin C that you buy will be fine. There's no evidence that ascorbic acid, vitamin C, that is manufactured is any different than natural vitamin C. The important part is you need to consume vitamin C tablets or capsules on a continuous basis. So I recommend about 500 milligrams 4 times a day. Now, some people, in fact, a blogger just wrote about this, and I was actually shocked that she even tried this, an MD. She took 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C to boost her vitamin C. And of course, she got
That is not how it works.
That's not how it works. And she got impressive diarrhea, which Linus Pauling could have told her, 50 years ago. But you have to space this dose out because it only lasts 2 to 3 hours in your bloodstream, and then it's gone. I personally take timed release vitamin C several times a day, but in this crisis, it's very hard to find time release vitamin C. But plain old vitamin C, taken 4 times a day, is a great way to boost your defense. The second thing that I've been now preaching about for over 20 years is we have a profound deficiency of vitamin D in our bodies. Now, one of the reasons that black and brown people are more susceptible to this virus is there's very good research that because of skin color,
melanin,
there is very little vitamin D in blacks and brown skinned people, even if you're exposed to sunlight. Study a few years ago in the Bronx in New York City among black people showed that well over 90% of blacks in New York City had insufficient levels of vitamin D3. So the point of all this is, yes, go out and get sunlight. Great idea. But many places, for instance, it's raining right here. You're not going to be out in the sun. But you should take vitamin D3. Now, I've been measuring vitamin D levels in patients for over 20 years and been aggressive with vitamin D replacement. I have yet to see vitamin D toxicity. I recently had Dr. Mark Hyman, a friend of mine, on a podcast. He, in his practice, has never seen vitamin D toxicity. I don't think it exists. The Cleveland Clinic's now upper range of normal vitamin Ds is 150 nanograms per milliliter. I run mine greater than 120, and I have for the last 18 years to prove I'm not dead, and so far so good. So vitamin D, normally most people should a minimum take about 5,000 international units a day. That's 125 micrograms a day if you use that scale. The University of California, San Diego says bare minimum to get an adequate level should be 9,600 international units a day. I'll tell you what I do. I'm not telling everyone to do this, but when I feel, a potential virus coming on, scratchy throat, runny nose, I will actually take 150,000 international units of vitamin D3 3 days in a row. So that's literally about 500,000 international units of vitamin D over 3 days. I've done that multiple times through the years. I've had a number of patients also use that. I'm not telling everybody to do that. But when this started a few weeks ago and I decided to continue to see patients who were not screened because we don't have good screening yet in the United States.
Yes.
On Sunday, I took 100,000 international units. On Monday, I took 50,000. On Tuesday, I took 25,000, and then I leveled off at 10,000. And I did that again last Sunday. I'm not dead. So this is something that anybody can do. And there's 2 reasons. Vitamin D has incredible antiviral properties, number 1. But number two, vitamin D. My research in autoimmune diseases shows that vitamin D is incredibly important for repairing leaky gut, repairing the wall of the gut. And vitamin D also tells our immune system if it is hyper turned on to relax. And people hear about the cytokine storm that is killing.
Yes.
One of the things that we know is that the immune system in these individuals is hyper turned on. It's crazy. And what's interesting in autoimmune diseases where the immune system is hyper turned on, vitamin D suppresses this hyperactivity of the immune system. It doesn't kill the immune system, it just tells the immune system to calm down. And so this is another important area. If we're worried about cytokine storm, all the more reason to actually increase your vitamin D, don't decrease it. And there's several well-meaning bloggers out there that say, oh my gosh, this is the last time we should be having vitamin D and vitamin C because it'll make the cytokine storm worse. No, that's absolutely not true. It's the exact opposite. And 20 years of research in autoimmune diseases on my part shows that's not true.
Excellent, sir. So basically, to cut it down, vitamin C, silver bullet, which helps your immune system as a defense, and vitamin D is literally a chill pill for suppression your hyper immunity, right? Hyper reaction to that, which it is leading actually to death. So excellent, sir. And I think it is universal around the world what you're telling me. And vitamin C and vitamin D is universally very cheap, very accessible. People can take it, no prescriptions are needed. And you are saying that with vitamin D, there is no way, of course, it depends from person to person. We're not saying to do for everybody, but generally, there is no toxications of vitamin D. You can take, and you are saying that we are taking 500,000 in a stretch of a 3 day.
Right.
3 days
I'm not paying
I understand.
with that. I'm doing it.
Yeah, but you're looking good, sir, and you are in California, and California is not it's not Alaska. It doesn't get, it gets enough sunny days. But again,
interestingly, I've written in the past that 80% of Southern Californians in my clinic, their vitamin D levels are actually low.
Oh,
yeah, because we use sunscreen.
Oh, okay. UV protection. Yeah.
Blocks, your ability to make vitamin D. So, yeah, I was actually surprised when I first started measuring vitamin D in patients every 3 months, and 80% of Southern Californians are vitamin D deficient. So just because we may be out in the sun doesn't mean we should not boost our own vitamin D.
And especially at this time when 3 billion people are sitting home, they're getting a lack of a sunlight, right? It's not, and also there is one misconception, sir, maybe just me, but please correct me if I'm right. If your window is closed and you're looking at the sun, it doesn't mean you're getting a sunlight of vitamin D. You should have exposed yourself to open rays?
Yes,
is that the case?
That's correct. The window will filter out many of the rays that will activate vitamin D.
Yeah, not everybody has a privilege of going out of the balcony and enjoy the sunny day. So we just have to make sure of that. And it is ultimately very good suggestion because vitamin D, vitamin C, available throughout the place. Excellent tip. Thank you very much, sir. And we learned that we're going to eat a lot of greens. And this is also really good. But in a starchy food, definitely you have told about it. And definitely you made clear that sugar or sugar containing, we're talking about fizzy drinks, we're talking about, even a lot of people associate orange juice with a source of vitamin C. And we understood that because the same amount of juice has more sugar than, let's say, fizzy drinks even. So we are not going against, and since it's washed out very quickly, we're just producing, expensive urine. We just have to consume a lot of medical or like in a tablet form of vitamin C. What else food, what other food actually helps us to boost immunity, sir?
Well, the interesting thing that other foods can do for us, olive oil, it turns out there are some very interesting studies that components of olive oil, the polyphenols in olive oil, like for instance, hydroxytyrosol, has been shown to stop the replication of viruses. And it's been shown actually to stop the replication of the SARS virus, which is a cousin of the coronavirus, also the influenza viruses. So that may be why, you know, I've been saying for years that the only purpose of food is to get olive oil into your mouth. So add some olive oil to your meals. In fact, what I've recommended people in this day and age is take about a tablespoon of olive oil several times a day. And people have heard about oil pulling, of taking coconut oil and pulling it through your teeth. But actually just take olive oil instead and do pulling and gargle with olive oil. That will actually coat your, you know, mucous membranes where the coronavirus is going to come in with actually antiviral particles. So why not? And it's good for you.
Yeah, definitely. Olive oil. Wow, it's a really good comment. And another point, olive oil, like we are in a globalization time when you can find olive oil anywhere around the world, and it's not luxury anymore. It's not that expensive. And we're talking about any olive oil, isn't it? It's not just the extra virgin. Definitely they are better, but it doesn't mean they're less good.
Yeah, right now, you know, it does, and it doesn't even really matter where the olive oil comes from, whether it's Spain, Italy, Greece, Morocco. Just find some olive oil, preferably first cold press, preferably extra virgin. Quite frankly, the more peppery and bitter it is, that's a sign that there are more polyphenols, and that's actually what you're trying to get. Okay?
So you're looking for bitter ones.
Yeah, more bitter, more better.
Better, yeah. Beautifully said. Well, excellent, sir. This is going so good. I'm learning a lot of stuff, and basically all you've said right now, I have at home. Myself, I have it at home. I don't actually have to go and buy, but even if I want to buy, they are so available. And I see the same situation. You were talking about the California, same situation. Right now I'm in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. I see the same situation here. Greens are available. No one is looking there. There is no queue. But bread, fizzy drinks, or something that you can store for weeks, like cookies, sugar, everyone is just buying in a bulk, you know? And yeah, I mean, there is a lot of similarities. Doesn't matter where you're from. People tend to do the, you know, similar activities, sir. So it's really
the other thing we forget, you know, our grandparents or our great grandparents could have told us that the reason most cultures ate cabbages and turnips and other root vegetables is they are storageable. You can store cabbages all, you know, for the next 3 months and they won't rot. You can store, you know, sweet potatoes, they won't rot. So these are the storageable things that we should stock up on, and they will actually keep us healthy. Whereas all the things that are leaving the store, like the breads and cookies and fizzy drinks, those are the things that are going to make us more susceptible to this virus, not less.
excellent, excellent. So regarding the food, we kind of got into our system, but when you're doing a diet, there is like a combination of, especially when you, let's say, in a more of a sport, if you want to gain weight, basically having, you know, we're not talking about obesity, but having enough fat in your body as a proportion, and you doing a physical activity, we say 30% diet and like 30% workout, 70% diet. So is there any similarities do you suggest to do the combination of the, like, you know, working out? Does it help?
Well, interestingly enough, there's good studies that show that exercise actually makes for a healthier microbiome, a healthier set of bacteria. Also, it's been shown that meditation actually makes for a healthier set of bacteria.
Mm.
And the healthier, the more diverse, the more what I call gut buddies we have, and the less gang members we have, then the healthier our immune system. And so right now, with all the anxiety that everybody has, with all the depression that everybody has, meditation is one of the things that all of us can do. And there's actually a lot of good free meditation apps on the internet right now. If they want one recommendation, there's a company called Muse, M-U-S-E. They sell a headband, but to their credit, that you can download the Muse app, and there's tons of meditation exercises for free on that app. And this is a perfect time, you got nothing else to do, to learn to meditate. The other important thing is you do not have to go to a gym to exercise. You don't even need to go outside. There's multiple YouTube videos, and I even have one, that shows you how to use your body weight as your own gym. Let me give you a quick example. In America, the godfather of fitness was a gentleman by the name of Jack LaLanne. And Jack LaLanne had a TV show in the 1950s and 1960s that everybody watched. Jack LaLanne made it to 96 years old in actually perfect health. And Jack LaLanne said, and I knew Jack LaLanne, Jack LaLanne said there's only 2 exercises for perfect health that a human being has to do, and they can both be done in your house. One is deep knee bends, squats, and anybody can do squats. Number 2 is push-ups or planks. And those 2 exercises actually use almost all muscle groups in the body. And you don't need a gym to do squats and push-ups. What you do need to do today is commit yourself to even 5 minutes of doing these exercises. Again, we got nothing better to do.
Yeah, well, everybody's sitting home, and what we're saying in a summary is that we're saying drink the olive oil, take your medication in form of vitamin D, vitamin C, eat starchy food, and we're talking about eating cabbage and a lot of greens in order to help your immunity, and do the meditation. And especially also, I think, helps when a lot of people, I think it's also not talked with very widely, is that depression. Of course, we are social animal. We are not. We are created in a form to talk and to gather in the groups. And right now, everybody's home, and I think a lot of people are going to under depression. So, being and doing meditation, right? Not eating chocolate, not increasing a serotonin in their way, but doing the meditation also helps to combat that depression. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes, that's absolutely true. That my thesis at Yale University was on how social interaction was critical for our evolution, and we are a social creature, and that's one of the reasons that this is so hard for everyone, this isolation. We're not designed for this. This is hardwired into our DNA. But what's really interesting, work by Dr. Daniel Amen of the Amen Clinics has shown that most depression and anxiety actually comes from abnormal gut bacteria. And so women have always known that they have a gut feeling, and men tend to say, oh, don't be ridiculous. But we now know that that gut feeling is a true communication between the gut and the brain. And his work and others have now shown that most depression and anxiety comes from an abnormal gut flora. And if you change that gut flora, that resolves. And that's certainly been true in my clinic. The other exciting thing I'll leave everybody with, you can totally change your gut flora, your microbiome, from a bad set of bugs to a good set of bugs in only 3 days of changing your eating.
Just
And
3 days.
just 3 days. It's all you need. So, give the stuff you've been stocking up on people you don't like, and go get some cabbages, go get some turnips, go get some sweet potatoes, go get some mushrooms, and buy a bottle of olive oil, and you'll be fine.
Excellent. Well, actually, you answered to my last question of saying, like, let's condense it down and say, like, the final tips you already did. But if you want to add something on the top of that, it's like, this would be my final question to, okay, what you want to say, like, in 1 or 2 minutes to give or generalize your thesis. I understand there is not enough time, and I urge everybody to check out Dr. Gundry's YouTube channel. It's amazing for more source of information. But to kind of summarize what you want to say to people around the world in a summary, who are just hearing it for the very first time in a condensed way, what is your message, sir?
So my message is that chronic diseases increase your risk of this virus, not because of the chronic disease, because they are a sign that you actually have an altered microbiome and a leaky gut. And my research over the last 20 years have shown that you can change your microbiome by changing the foods you eat, you can heal your leaky gut, and you can prevent getting these horrible diseases. And believe it or not, you can reverse coronary artery disease, you can reverse diabetes. I've never met a diabetic that we can't make a non-diabetic by changing their food. It's actually an exciting time. And here's my final message. This is the perfect time to change your lifestyle, to change your diet. You can cook at home. And one of the exciting things, there was an article in the New York Times, an editorial, where are all the heart attacks and strokes? And certainly in my institutions, we've seen a dramatic decrease in heart attacks and strokes. In fact, our cath labs are empty, our operating rooms are empty, and this is being actually reflected around the world. And I'll remind everyone, if they'll listen, in World War II, the incidence of diabetes and heart disease drastically reduced during the 1940s. 2 reasons. Number one, we had food rationing of sugar and flour is pure sugar. The other thing that's exciting is that 40% of all the food that Americans ate during World War II was grown in home gardens. They were called victory gardens. And I think, and others are beginning to think, that the reason we suddenly have a huge drop in heart attacks and strokes around the world is because we're all at home and we're cooking our own food and we're not going out and eating, quite frankly, most of the foods that we eat in restaurants or fast food areas are not very good for us. In fact, they're really good for heart attacks. So let's look on the bright side and say, this is our chance to totally transform our world's health. And quite frankly, we in the United States have exported our poor health to the rest of the world. No one is immune from us. And if this is the opportunity for all of us as a world to start this opportunity to heal our own bodies, then a lot of good will come out of a very bad thing.
Yes, I mean, truer words never been spoken. And I think I want to just zoom out for a moment that definitely within a time frame, the coronavirus will not be here for forever, right? Anyways, we're catching up, and modern medicine made it sure that even in 1 year we're getting vaccines, which is incredible because before it was taking us 10 to 15 years to develop, and right now we can rapidly develop. This is good, but there will be new coronavirus, there will be another coronavirus, and there will be more pandemics coming. We cannot pre-mate, pre-cook any vaccine beforehand, because everything changes all the time, and we have to start from a base one. But what we can do is to build up a good immune system. And from what you are saying, it will not cost us a fortune. And we actually don't have to be a very rich people to have a nutriologist, to have a fancy gym equipment, and to have some sort of a fancy organic food. Definitely they're gonna add a value. However, even a basic person with a basic income can take care of himself by using those recommendations you're doing. And we're gonna be using your recommendation post-COVID. And that's why I love this conversation so much.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. I take care of many poor people in my practice that are on Medicaid and Medi-Cal, which are,
yes,
people who have no insurance. And what I found is my very poorest patients actually save money eating this way, because quite frankly, things like cabbages and turnips were poor people's food, because they were really cheap. They weren't the expensive croissants and breads and cookies and, rich meats. And the poor people, some of the longest living people in the world, are these people that ate this way from, day one. And again, this may be our perfect opportunity to change, to take control of our health so that the next pandemic doesn't hit us. Lastly, if you don't think that it's possible to change, I've had people in their mid-80s with diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, who arthritis, couldn't walk. They're now in their late 90s and they're on no medications. And, I have a 96-year-old woman who chases younger men. It's really fun to watch. But the point is, we're learning also, because we're all, isolated, that the planet is rapidly healing itself. Fish are now in the canals in Venice. The dolphins have returned to the lagoon in Venice. Southern California, there's no smog in Los Angeles. And this happened in 3 weeks. And can you imagine how fast the planet is healing when we've stopped killing it? If we think of our bodies as the same ecosystem as our planet, we can equally change our bodies. This is an ecosystem just like the Earth. And the exciting thing is you can change it and it will heal. It's never too late.
In 3 days.
In 3 days.
Excellent. So I think this conversation could go hours, and I really hope this is not our last conversation. We will be following up. But other than that, again, I urge everybody to go and subscribe. Better go and subscribe, because Dr. Gundry has amazing content and he has a really good way of telling things. He's a good storyteller. And let's learn from professionals. Let's learn from people who spend decades of their life researching that and applying to their life, and look at him, how he looks. He looks incredible. So I think we're going to be learning from you again, and thank you very much for your time. We will try to get this positive message to everybody, and we will be in touch. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for getting the message out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.